Back to Liberation YouTube channel. Today's class we'll be learning how to make this beautiful ruffles detail. It's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. So we'll be learning how to make this with very little fabric. It's not fabric consuming and the method is very simple. This is something you would like to learn. Kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to be teaching us the easiest way to make this ruffle. We have made several ruffles on the channel already, but this is a different one. So I'm going to be working with this organza fabric and I'll be teaching us how we can make it without wasting too much fabric. You can see that I have my fabric cut in a straight form like this. It's not a flare, so it means the fabric, this method is very economical. We're not going to waste too much fabric for this. So the total amount of fabric that I'm working with for this is around, okay, so this is like 17, so this is like half yard of this organza, half yard, and the length is the length of the organza. Okay, so that's the length that the organza comes with. That's the length that I'm working with. So that's about, should be around 60 inches, but most times not complete, so we have around 57, 58. So this fabric is 17 inches long, which is about half a yard, and 58 inches in length. So now the first thing I'm going to do now is to fold this into two. So if I'm using half yard, by the time I fold this into two, I'll have around 9 inches, which is quarter of a yard. Okay, so that's about 9 inches. I'm just going to fold it into two to shape it to have that tiny mouth that we have, that pencil mouth. So make sure that where you have folded is equal. If it's not equal, you can trim it so that you can have something equal. Okay, so I'm just going to trim off the uneven parts that I have there so that I can have something uniform. Okay, so once you have it like this, the pencil part is just on one side, so we're going to be working on just one side. We're not making the pencil on both sides. So from the starting point of that side that I've chosen, I'm just going to measure. There's really no measurement to this, you can just eyeball it, but I'm just assuming that I'm dividing the length. Remember I said the length should be 60 inches, so just imagine that we are dividing this length into 4. That would be around 15 inches. So from that starting point there, I'm going to measure 15 inches so that I can create that small hack. So from here now, I have 15 inches up to here. So once you have your 15 inches, you can use your free hand or you just use a cuff to connect it from this tip here to that 15 inches diagonally like this, so that I can have that small. So like I was saying, from there I'm going to connect it diagonally like this. I'm just using my free hand, but you can also use a curve. Then you are going to blend it with the length that you already have there. We are doing this because we want that tiny piece at the start of the ruffle. So after connecting it like that, I'm going to go ahead and take my scissors and then cut that part off. So just make sure it's as smooth as possible. You don't want it looking too sharp or anything like that. So I've cut this now. I can see the hack that I have there. So because this is an organza fabric and it's shaking, I just want to hold with a pin. Then I'll take it to the sewing machine and then sew all through. Okay, so if you have like a serger, you can just take it to the weaving machine and then weave it. But because I want to turn it, you know, organza frills a lot, so I just want to sew it so that I can turn it to the right side so that the frilling is not going to affect what I'm doing. So I'm just holding this with pins now, and then I'll take it to the sewing machine and then I'm going to sew it. So I'll sew from this tip here all the way. Remember, this side is on fold, it's not open, so you do not divide this into two, so you just have to put it on fold like that. Then I'm going to sew like this all to the end. Then I'm going to leave this open part, the other side that we did not touch, to turn it out. So I'll go over to the sewing machine and sew this now. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew it now, and you can see what we have. I started from this tip all the way to the other So from this small space that I left on the other side, I'm going to turn it out. So it's easy because organza is soft, so no matter how small the space is, you can work something out. So now I'm turning it to the right side, and you can see that this side now is neat. Okay, this is important because of the nature of the fabric that we are working with. So yeah, you're using something that is stronger. You may not need this, but if you also have a weaving machine, you can just use that to serge it and it will be fine. So this is what we have. You just need to close up this small space that we have left here. So now I'm going to arrange this well. Okay, so after turning it out like this, the next thing now is to take on this part where you sew it. You should not iron this because you want it to be bouncing, so just leave it as it is. Then on this part where we sew it, I'm going to go ahead now and run a loose stitch, a gather stitch on it, so that I can gather it. So from here now, I'm going to run a gather stitch all the way to the other end. So another way you can calculate the amount of fabric you need now is by measuring where you want to place these flanks. You just measure it and then you multiply that measurement by 3 or even by 4 if you want it really full. So now I'm going to gather this to the exact measurement that I need. That's where I'm going to be placing this flank. So if you are placing it on your neckline, just measure your neckline. So if you are placing it on your shoulder, just measure around your shoulder. Wherever it is that you're measuring, that you're placing this, you're going to be gathering this to that exact measurement. So I'll take this to the sewing machine. I'll run a loose stitch now and then bring it back so that we can continue. Okay, so I've gone ahead to run these loose stitches now. The next thing is to gather it. So I'll just pull the thread gently now and then start to gather to that size that I need. So now this is me gathering this to the required size. So I'll gather this now and bring it back to show us what it looks like. Okay, so I've gathered this now and you can see how small it is looking. I've gathered it to the size that I need. So now the next thing now is to start creating these ruffles. You can even sew it like this, and this is a form of design also if that is what you want. But if you don't want this, we're going to be creating the ruffles that we have on the thumbnail. So now to create this ruffle, I'll advise that you just sew this first on this part. Just sew it to the area that you want to sew it to and then create your ruffle, or you can just create those ruffles and then tack everything onto the fabric. So whichever one you want to work with is fine. So now you can create your ruffles manually by just opening up this now. Open it, you can just pick it in the middle now and then you tack. Okay, so this is one. Then you go over to the next one, open it up, create some ruffles and then you tack it again. You can see that we're already creating it. Then you go to the next one also, open it up, create the ruffles and tack. But the easiest way you can do this if you have a dress form is just to pin it on your dress form so that you can see the variations that you have. If you are not okay with it, then you'll be able to correct it. Okay, so I have my dress form here now. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to try to sew it. I'll just imitate it like I'm sewing it on my fabric using this. So you can see now I'm just going to pin it onto the dress form now like I am sewing it before I create the ruffles. So you're just going to pin it along the lines that you want these ruffles to be created. So now I'm pinning it from the center front to the shoulder area. Okay, so after pinning it now, we're going to create. Okay, so like I was saying, I've moved this to the mannequin. So I've pinned this to the mannequin like I'm sewing it now, and you can see what we have. So like I said, this is just a design on its own. You can leave it like this, but to create those ruffles like I was explaining, so you just open up on this folded part. That's why I said you don't need to sew this because that's what's going to show. So you just open it up like this and then create some ruffles. You can just pinch it anywhere and then you tack it. Okay, so I'm just going to be pinning it. So this is the first one. Then I'm going to go over to the next one, open it up like this also, create some ruffles around that side, and then I'm going to also tack it down. So now you go to the next one. So this is what you're going to do to create those ruffles till you get to the last one, so you can see what we have. So the reason why I prefer to just pin it to the mannequin is when you're doing this, and you are not satisfied with maybe any part, that's so you can see what we have now. So if you are doing this and you're not satisfied at any point in time, you can just remove your pins because you are yet to sew it. You can just remove your pin now and then recreate it. So it is better this way. So I'm just opening it up again now, creating my ruffles there, and then I'm going to take my pin and pin it down. So this is what you're going to do, and you can see that it is narrow to this point because of the cutting that we did when we wanted to start this. So if you want it uniform, you just leave it, but because this is the style that I want to go for, that was why I went in by 15 inches, then I curved it to that point. So now I'm going to tack all of this now and then bring it back to show us what it looks like. But basically this is the process that I'm going to involve in making all this tacking, so you can see what we have so far. After gathering your ruffles, this is what it looks like. So when you're gathering it, you just need to lift it up like this, pin it, and then you go ahead and tack it with your needle and thread or your sewing machine. You can see how lovely this has turned out, and you can make it bigger by increasing the amount of fabric you are working with, or even smaller depending on what you want to achieve. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.